Hi, folks. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. We're just going to wait for more folks to join us. We've had a lot of people register for this call, so we just want to make sure that everyone who's registered is able to log in before we begin. So if you, I see that a lot of y'all are doing this already, but if you haven't already, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know where you're from. Let us know which indivisible group you're representing, and let us know something that you're excited for in the next year. Oh my goodness, there's so many people that the chat box, like you can't even read it unless you scroll up. It's moving so fast. That is amazing. Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're waiting just one more minute for more people to join us. We have a lot of people registered for this call, and we want to make sure everyone is able to join us. If you haven't introduced yourself in the chat box before, feel free to do so. Let us know which indivisible group you're representing, or let us know if you don't belong to an indivisible group and you'd like to. We have many people who would love to have you join them.
CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term.
And there you have it. After 4 years of organizing, mobilizing, winning elections, and fighting for our democracy, our movement has won its biggest fight yet, electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and making Donald Trump a one-term president. In true indivisible fashion, we're not responding to huge victories by closing up shop and going home. Nope, we're ready to get back to work, because winning these elections was only the first step. Our work in the coming weeks, months, and years will be crucial, and it's up to us to make it count. We're ready to change this country. We're ready to keep organizing. We're ready to keep fighting. We are indivisible, and we're ready for what's next. Visit indivisible.org to learn more.
Welcome to our post-election national activist call. My name is Juliana Garcia, and I'm the senior distributed organizer with the Indivisible team. Before we begin, I'm just going to go over some quick logistics. We have over 1,200 indivisible groups, leaders and members, activists from all across the country. And because we have so many folks with us, everyone but the speakers are going to be automatically muted. If you're struggling with the sound or video throughout tonight's call, we're going to be dropping a link on the chat box that will help you troubleshoot. We also have live closed captioning on Zoom. You can turn those on by clicking the CC button on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Lastly, we'll be showing you some visuals tonight, and if you're joining us on the phone, don't worry, we'll also be describing what's on the screen for everyone. Okay, so 1,461 days ago, Donald Trump was elected president. And I'll only speak for myself, but frankly, 4 years ago, I was terrified. I was a young and unsuspecting organizer, and I just remember crying a lot and calling my mom to seek guidance and to make sense of what was happening in the country that I thought I knew and understood. 1,460 days later, though, on November 7th, President-elect Biden became the next president of the United States of America. And damn, that feels really good to say. Without a question, the reason that we're here today, celebrating a big win and even lamenting some losses, is because of you. We might not be able to see all of the countless hours you've devoted to organizing, empowering members of your community, and helping voters have their voices heard, but we can feel it. As a previous Georgia organizer, I can tell you that this Saturday, I slept like a baby for the first time in a very long time, and I hope you all did too. All right, so tonight we have a very special and informative call for everyone. We'll hear from Danny, our political manager, who'll go over the elections results. Then our national organizing director, Susanna, will celebrate some of the hard work Indivisibles have done this election cycle. And finally, we'll have Mary, our legislative director, who will be discussing how Indivisible is preparing to take action and continue to push for systematic change in 2021. At the end of the call, we will be holding a Q&A section. If we don't get to your question tonight, don't worry. Reach out to our support team. We're ready to help you take action and answer any questions you may have. Just shoot us an email at supportteam@indivisible.org. Once again, that's supportteam@indivisible.org. And this information will also come to you in next week's email. Alrighty. Before we begin, we're going to hear from our two very special guests joining us tonight, Indivisible's own co-executive directors, Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levin. Take it away.
Great, Jules. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay. Technology work. So everybody, you might hear Zeke, our 4-week-old, in the background. He is, bopping away and being pretty chill right now, but hopefully we can get through this. You might see one of us run off. I'm Ezra, and
I'm Leah.
And we're the co-founders of Indivisible, and this is an absolutely wild experience to be talking to you right now. We're talking to you right now from the same table where we tweeted out the guide, the Indivisible guide, roughly 4 years ago. And I got to say, we had hoped when we sent out that guide into the Twitterverse that maybe in a few months, a few years, somebody would come back to us and say, hey, we found your guide to organizing. We understood that it was important to put pressure on our local officials, and we went to a town hall and we asked some good questions. Thanks for writing that. That was our theory of what success might look like. Needless to say, the last 4 years has been incredible. It's been incredible to see this movement grow, to be part of it, to see its impact. Immediately after we tweeted that out, we just got so many emails and messages from all across the country. First of all pointing out the typos in the guide, but then second of all, saying, hey, I got my handful of people together. I'm Indivisible Austin, I'm Indivisible Tallahassee, I'm Indivisible Syracuse. There are now thousands of local Indivisible groups powered by people on this call. You met in libraries, you met in churches, you met in your own living rooms to figure out how to resist this oncoming onslaught known as the Trump administration. And immediately you started showing your impact. Immediately, the first day of Congress, people were showing up to push back against this Republican onslaught that was coming, backing Trump and his authoritarianism. You rallied against the Muslim ban with our immigrant brothers and sisters. You rallied to save the Affordable Care Act. You then did something that nobody predicted we could do. You built a blue wave that took the US House of Representatives. I got to tell you, when we said that that was possible in 2017, people laughed at us. People laughed that that could happen. What about gerrymandering? What about voter suppression? What about Donald Trump? That can't happen. And yet you did it. You took the US House of Representatives, and then you made Donald Trump just the third US president in American history to become impeached, not convicted by a criminally incompetent Senate controlled by the GOP, but impeached. And that will live throughout history, along with the fact that Donald Trump becomes a one-term Republican president. We did it, y'all. We won. We won. And we didn't just win in a normal election year. We overcame just about every possible obstacle together. They made it harder for indigenous communities to vote. They purged Black voters from the rolls. They made it difficult for young people to register to vote. They closed down polling locations in low-income areas. They screwed around with the United States Postal Service. They threw every single barrier that they possibly could. Sorry, I get so angry when I think about what they tried to throw in our way. This was the most rigged election since Jim Crow. This is the most rigged election in defense of authoritarianism and plutocracy in this country in decades. And we overcame that together to defeat Trump. Trump becomes the first incumbent Republican president to lose re-election without a third party spoiler since Herbert Hoover. He's got the largest percentage in the vote now for a challenger since FDR in 1932. Now, Leah's going to talk a little bit about what's going on now. It is so clear to me that had this election been a squeaker, had this hinged on just one state, they would absolutely be enthusiastically, aggressively backing a coup right now instead of feeding anonymous quotes to press behind closed doors. But instead, it's a freaking landslide, everybody. You built that. We all built that together from the work you've done day in, day out for the last 4 years. And you know, if you just want to feel good for a second, aside from just defeating Donald Trump, it's not just him. Think about who just lost their job as a result of your effort. Bill Barr is out of a job. Betsy DeVos is out of a job. Wilbur Ross is out of a job. Mike Pompeo is out of a job. Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, is out of a job. Stephen freaking Miller is out of a job, y'all. All of these authoritarians, all of these people who did their best to throw up walls for our democracy or literal walls at the border, they are going to be updating their resume and joining K Street lobbyists or what the hell knows they're going to do. But they're not going to be working in the White House because of the work you did. We won. We won. We did it. And so why do we have to keep on saying we won, Leah?
All right, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I hear a lot of concern in the chat box on. We all know we're not out of the woods yet. Let me just recognize nobody on this call is going to sleep entirely easy until January 20th when Joe Biden takes the oath of office. We always knew that Donald Trump wouldn't just make a concession speech and slink off like a normal politician, that he might try to subvert the election or overturn the results. That's why we worked with over 170 organizations to create the Protect the Results Coalition, which is designed to mobilize to ensure that there is a democratic transition in the event that Donald Trump does attempt to overturn those results. And I know there are folks on this call who've been working with us on PTR planning and events, some of folks who have already mobilized locally in response to Trump's antagonistic behavior so far. But just to provide a brief review of what's happened so far. So the PTR steering committee, which includes a representative group of progressive organizations, has not yet activated PTR nationally, although they are reassessing on a regular basis, including starting from November 4th on. This is for a couple reasons. First, we are winning the public narrative war right now. Polling out today shows that 80% of Americans believe that Joe Biden won the election. PTR is Protect the Results. That's the coalition that's about mobilizing to ensure that there is a peaceful transition of power. We're winning the narrative war. Second, there are no signs yet that any of the actions that Trump is taking have any potential to successfully change the outcome of the transition. The count has proceeded. Biden is very clearly the winner in a number of different states. Trump's legal case makes no sense. He is losing the specific legal challenges that he's bringing. He's losing at every turn. he is making a lot of very, very frightening noise right now. I see the updates too, and every time we hear another piece of news, it is quite scary. Oh, please speak louder. Sorry. But what we're seeing is a playbook that might have been very dangerous if it had been a closer election, but the work you did made that impossible. Biden won a resounding victory. He won beyond margins that they could cheat. And given that, what people feel really strongly across the coalition is that the most important frame here is that the transition is inevitable. Joe Biden won. He is hard at work. He and the Biden team are hard at work moving the transition forward. There's real risk right now that activating could be giving Trump more power than he actually has by mobilizing a full counter response and by, allowing the public narrative to be one that suggests he actually has the power to overturn the results. So right now, we're working. This does not mean that activating is off the table. We're watching really carefully, and we're in constant touch with our partners, with national political leaders, with democracy experts who are watching every step of this process. But for now, we want to use our network to stress again and again that this was a resounding victory and that the transition is inevitable and it is proceeding. So if anything, what I would say this highlights is a challenge that we all know that we were going to face at this moment, which is beating Trump was never going to mean the end of Trumpism or Republican intransigence or white supremacy or plutocracy. We won this major battle. We've defeated a would-be dictator. But the forces that allowed him to rise and stay in power, they're still very, very alive in our democracy. And I see that Zeke is on camera now because the chat box has stopped being about Donald Trump at all. So we always knew that this was going to be a long fight. We always knew that this wasn't going to be something that you solve with one election cycle or just by electing Democrats alone. We knew that we were digging in to do this work for the long haul. But right now, I just want to say again, what a joy and a pleasure and an honor it is to be on this call with you. This is a call that has been 4 years in the making. And so I do hope that while we're all freaked out still about the potential and the transition, we can also take a moment right now to celebrate what we have done and what we have accomplished together. And Ezra, we are way, way over time right now. So I think
how are we doing on time? Should we, I was going to talk a little bit about Progressive Caucus and Senate, although I can hold. You tell me.
Juliana, what's best?
If you are okay with holding on till the end.
Yeah, totally fine.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Good Zeke. Wait, we'll show him. He says hi. Okay, great talking to y'all. We'll stay on.
Thanks, y'all. Okay, so we're gonna hear now from Danny, our political manager. Take it away, Danny.
I don't know how I follow Zeke. That seems unfair, but okay, I'll do it anyway. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for the introduction, Jules. My name is Danny Negretti, and I am one of our political managers here at Indivisible. And I have been so lucky to be with this organization since the early days in 2017. And I've gotten to see a lot. I think if we move forward on this slideshow, we can show you what we started from. This was the electoral map in 2016. It was really, really rough. I know that I've been feeling echoes of this all week, and just looking at this gives me like a feeling in the pit of my stomach. But following this travesty, I was lucky enough to join Indivisible, and I've gotten to see so much from the Virginia elections in 2017, where we scored some of our earliest and biggest electoral wins, to the fight to save the ACA, and then that big, beautiful blue wave that we won in 2018. This movement has had a profound impact on American politics. I come from campaigns and electoral organizing, and I know how hard it is to mobilize people around a new campaign every 2 to 4 years that they know will disappear after the first week of November. Indivisible has had a huge role in solving for that by giving progressives and engaged citizens a hub for political engagement all year long. And that's the kind of work that's saving our democracy today and that saved our democracy last Tuesday. So if you want to hop to our next slide, I am so excited and so honored to be here to discuss with you the results of the presidential election. And the first and biggest headline is that we frickin' won. In Ezra's words, we won. After 4 years of organizing, educating, registering, canvassing, calling, texting, all of it, this movement helped defeat Donald Trump at the ballot box. We made history by making Joe Biden president-elect and Kamala Harris vice president-elect. That is huge. And you might notice, looking at this electoral map, there are some familiar numbers up there at the top. Our win is probably going to be 306 electoral votes. That is exactly the number of electoral votes Donald Trump got in 2016. That feels pretty good. But despite that, I know that it's been a rough week. Tuesday did have a lot of echoes of 2016. The Florida results were coming in, Texas results, and it did not feel great early on. You know, we were seeing some really challenging results, but we knew from the outset, we'd been saying for weeks, months even, that the early returns would show a big favor for Donald Trump, but then a big blue wave of mail-in ballots would make up that difference and carry us to victory. And boy, howdy did that happen. I want to take a second to zoom in on a couple of these states, but first I want to acknowledge that the only reason why we were able to pull this off in a pandemic, the only reason this victory is what it is and took shape the way that it did, is because so many of the folks on this call and across the country did so much work to educate voters around mail-in balloting, how to request a ballot, how to send it back, how to fix your ballot. That was so important to this win, and I want to thank every single one of you who were involved because it was so, so, so important. Now, just to zoom in on a couple of these states, I want to talk about our victories there because this wasn't a small victory hinging on just one state. No, we had really big victories across the country. The scale of this win is far too big. Let's talk about Arizona. Arizona, where we have some amazing indivisible groups that have worked their asses off to flip this state from red to blue. I remember our first Indivisible Organizing Institute in Arizona. There were folks there telling me that in 4 years' time, Arizona was going to be a blue state. And I was like, that sounds great. That's a little ways off, but that sounds great. They did it. With the support of indivisibles from urban and suburban areas around Phoenix to rural areas out near Prescott. And then, the real muscle that was brought in by the incredible support from Native communities like the Tohono O'odham. Joe Biden carried that state, and more votes are being counted, but Joe Biden is up there right now by almost 15,000 votes. We can look at some of these other big flips of the night, especially in the Rust Belt. In Wisconsin, Joe Biden beat Donald Trump, which was just a major flip from 2016. I remember waking up on Wednesday morning and seeing one of Ezra's tweets saying that, he was leading in Wisconsin now, and that made me feel so much better because that was such a good indicator for how the rest of the Rust Belt would be playing out. Biden beat Trump in Michigan. He's beating him by 150,000 votes. That's easily dwarfing Donald Trump's 2016 margin. It was just a little over 10,000 votes. And in Pennsylvania, Biden is leading by 45,000 votes, and that is bigger than Donald Trump's 2016 victory and growing. These were really, really important states that have shaped the narrative of this win from a shaky, just barely eked out victory into a really solid win that we can step forward with. I also want to turn my attention to the big national superstar that I'm seeing getting so many shout outs in the chat right now, Georgia. Today, Georgia is a blue state. It's a blue state because of the work that we've done this cycle and the work that so many organizations, especially Black-led organizations in the state, have done. Joe Biden is leading today by 12,651 points. That is going to continue to go up as the votes are finalized. And we have so many people to thank for this right now, from Stacey Abrams and other Black leaders in the state to our own groups, folks like Martha Shockey and others who have been doing work in the state all the way back to 2017. it has been a really important big win, and I'm going to come back to Georgia in a second when we talk about the Senate. The most important thing that I want to talk to you about in these presidential results is that as we're navigating these kind of uncertain waters between, getting these calls and Donald Trump finally acknowledging the reality of the situation, is that this is a big win. This is not a small win. Over 76, it's going to continue to grow, million people voted for Joe Biden. There's going to be a margin of over 5 million votes. That is record breaking. It's record smashing. And it's not just from those key states. We have voters that have grown their communities, their progressive mobilization and infrastructure in Florida, in North Carolina, and Texas. And that work, those communities are going to outlast Trump, but they're also going to outlast Ron DeSantis. They're going to outlast John Cornyn. They're going to outlast Tom Tillis. And it will ultimately be the backbone of future wins. So I just cannot thank you and congratulate you all enough for the work that you did on this presidential race. We should be stepping forward with the strength of that victory as we continue forward and look towards 2021 and beyond. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about the down ballot races that we've been tracking and looking at, that were admittedly tougher this year. And a lot of us have been experiencing some mixed emotions as a result, because we have this giant win at the top of the ticket and some challenging results a little bit lower. So in 2018, after that big blue wave, we looked ahead to the upcoming congressional races in 2020, and we knew one thing, and that it was going to be tough. We had some historic wins in 2018, and they were in districts that were going to be challenging to defend and to hold on to for year after year. And the Senate map was overall not that friendly. We would be competing in deep red states against some deeply entrenched Republican incumbents, and we knew that this was going to be a tough fight. And so we worked really hard. We organized, and back in February, we launched our payback project, and that was to target Republicans who were particularly inclined to cover for Donald Trump's crimes. We also launched our 2020 endorsement program to bring new progressive voices to Congress. And on election night, we had some tough losses in Maine, Kentucky, Texas, Iowa, and South Carolina. We have Republican incumbents that were reelected. These were heavily entrenched incumbents that were, always going to be tough targets to take out. And we did unfortunately see Cal Cunningham concede his race as well today. And we've seen some losses, some tough losses in the House. But I want to be clear, the fight for the Senate is not over. We have not yet lost this battle. We still hold the House majority, and we only need to flip 2 Senate seats now in order to win the Senate majority. And that's because we had hugely important wins in Arizona and Colorado. Martha McSally, the unelected 0-2 loser from Arizona, lost her seat to Mark Kelly, and now finally in Colorado, Cardboard Corey can retire and rest because Colorado Indivisibles helped show the real Cory Gardner the door. These are hugely important wins. Both Senator-elect Kelly and Senator-elect Hickenlooper have acknowledged the power and the strength that Indivisibles have in their states and across the country. And I'm so excited for all of you in those states who made those wins possible and to see them actually go to Congress. And then finally, like I said, we are always going to come back to Georgia. Georgia. We have 2 Senate seats that are going to run off. None of the candidates involved in those races got to 50%. And by Georgia law, if you can't crack 50, you do not win that election. And so both John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are going to runoffs on January 5th. I don't think of this as a loss or even a draw. These were big victories to get to runoffs. And in this moment, we needed those now more than ever. We have a pretty clear path forward. We have won the House majority. We have won the presidency. We need to take these Senate seats. If we can seal the deal with these 2 Senate seats, we can save lives, we can save our planet, and we can save democracy for generations to come. We know that the votes are there in Georgia. We saw it. The best thing, the best possible poll is a real life election, and we just saw Joe Biden win it. So the votes are there for the Democrats. We just have to get them out. So please take this moment, feel this victory, and enjoy, all of the energy that it's bringing. And then join me in stepping forward to the next piece of work with the strength and determination of this winning coalition, because we truly have such a big victory at our back that we need to carry forward into governing. So thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back to Jules.
Thank you so much, Danny. Now we're going to hear from Susanna, our National Organizing Director, who's going to be celebrating some of the hard work Indivisibles have been doing.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be on with everybody tonight. I'm going to start. I don't always provide my geographic location, but I'm now always going to do that because I live in Oakland, California, where our VP-elect Kamala Harris is from, and I will take any chance I can to talk about her. I have a very fun job tonight because this evening I get to talk more about the incredible work we've done together this cycle. And I know, and I'm reading the chat box, I know people want to talk about Georgia, what we're going to do in 2021, how it's possible that so many people still voted for Trump, how we're going to fix our democracy, and all of that is critically important stuff. And I take very seriously my job tonight of helping make sure that we celebrate, that we reflect. I think that's critical to building a long-term sustainable movement. And these are the stories that we get to tell other people when the fight is hard. Starting at a really high level, because Danny touched on this a little bit, but because of COVID, the Indivisible movement built and executed an entirely digital direct voter contact program, the most robust in the country. That's a tremendous organizing feat, and it resulted in over 37 million direct voter contact attempts through mail, phone, and text. And that's just the number that we know of for sure. Our estimate is actually that the Indivisible movement accomplished nearly double that number, making nearly 60 million voter contact attempts this cycle. It's a massive achievement, and it was only possible because of the thousands of election events organized by hundreds and hundreds of local Indivisible groups and volunteers across the country, all of which led to tens of thousands of people taking action. And that's the power of organizing. And all of that work, doesn't just happen because we woke up 3 months ago and said, let's do this. It is the work that it is only possible because of the movement building, the group building, the deep organizing work that we've been doing together since 2016. And of course, all of the work that came before that, work that is being led by so many of the community members on this call. On that note, and for a different level of Zoom, I'm now going to share some highlights from the state and local level. And an important preface here, this is not going to be comprehensive. It's just a slice. The longer version, which still would not be comprehensive, would take at least several hours. It's a really fantastic problem we have, that the more powerful a movement we are, the less possible it is to give a comprehensive report back. And please help me as I'm going through this. If you don't hear something from your state, your city, your local Indivisible group, share those stories in the chat box. Here we go. Indivisibles continued the trend of running for office this cycle. Just a few highlights here. In Maryville, Tennessee, Sarah Herron, a member of Indivisible East Tennessee, became the first woman to be elected to the city council. In Pima County, Arizona, Gabriela Casares Kelly, a member of Indivisible Tohono, became the first Indigenous woman to be elected as the county recorder. In California, 11 Indivisibles ran for office and 7 won. So if you've got other stories on just this piece of Indivisible running for office, please shout those out in the chat box. And while folks do that, I'm going to keep running through some of the highlights from the field. On the West Coast, Arizona, and Danny talked about this a little bit too, Arizona Indivisibles played a huge leadership role in officially flipping the state blue, making Mark Kelly the next senator, holding a mind-boggling 412 election events that were registered, voters were registered. They organized rural voters. They helped get out the vote. In California, Indivisible groups helped elect an all-female board to the LA Board of Supervisors for the first time in 150 years, I believe. Indivisible groups in North Carolina, in North Bay, held more than 400 phone banks, and we saw a ton of exciting down ticket victories in Southern California. Going to Colorado, Indivisible Groups sent over 2 million texts to voters to make Trump a one-term president and make Cory Gardner a one-term senator. And Senator-elect Hickenlooper publicly credited Indivisible with his win and went further to commit to holding at least 4 town halls a year, and has stated again publicly that he's really open to Indivisible's advocacy. This is tremendous work and really speaks to what it means to build power. While we're still waiting for all the tallying in Alaska, we know that the Indivisible groups in Alaska have done incredible work to form powerful coalition partnerships. They did so much to get out the vote, and they have tirelessly supported an ongoing recall campaign to oust their Trump-supporting governor. In the Midwest, stronger than ever, Indivisibles organized over 1,000 Indivisible group events through the Great Plains, resulting in tens of millions of direct voter contact attempts. And the organizing proof is in the pudding there. We won a lot and big. Indivisible groups in the Midwest also held multiple regional phone bank parties like Romance Landia, Gaslit Nations. If you have questions about what I just said, put it in the chat. I'm sure there are people there who'd be excited to give you more details. But so much deep creativity in the organizing work that brought in hundreds of first-time phone bankers and then brought them back again. And Indivisibles in Ohio held Striding with Biden events across the state to get out the vote. Again, ask in the chat if you want more information on those. Back on the East Coast in New York, Indivisible groups helped elect Jamal Bowman in New York 16 and Mondaire Jones in New York 17, sending 2 new freshman members of the squad to Congress, again, making our progressive bloc that much stronger. Pennsylvania Indivisibles organized over 330 electoral events statewide, with, I believe, Indivisible Philly alone writing more than 500,000 postcards to turn out first-time voters. In Maine, while Sarah Gideon lost, Collins won with under 51% of the vote compared to 2014 when she was reelected with 69%. Indivisible groups in Maine had a huge role to play in slimming that margin and taking one more step towards the ultimate eventuality, which is flipping Maine from red to blue. And finally, down in the South, with the help of Indivisible groups, New Mexico elected all women of color to the House. And even though we haven't quite flipped Texas, Texas Indivisible groups helped get record-breaking turnout for Democrats, with Biden receiving over 5.2 million votes across the state and flipping a Texas Senate seat. In Florida, Indivisible Action Tampa Bay sent, I believe, just over 6,000 postcards and made just under 9,000 silent lit drops at doors in the last 9 weeks before the election. And in Georgia, Indivisible groups held nearly 100 electoral events encouraging voters to vote, and it worked. For the first time since 1992, Georgia is a blue state. This is a monumental victory, as we all know, largely due to the leadership and activism of Black and brown organizers that had the vision and the tenacity to make a blue Georgia a reality once again. And Indivisible groups in Georgia were a significant force in helping Democrats flip the 7th district, once a Republican stronghold, making Carolyn Bordeaux Georgia's newest House member. Okay, so that was a lot. And again, it was just a slice of what our movement, the Indivisible movement, helped accomplish this election cycle and what we can and will continue to make happen in our organizing together as we build this path together, a path from where we are today toward the vision we have for how our country can and should be. And we build this path through building and leveraging our collective power. That's the power that we've been building and using together over these past 4 years, and the power that we're taking into 2021 with us that we're going to need, because there's a lot of work to do to keep fighting to fix our democracy and win real transformative progressive victories. We are absolutely a stronger, more brilliant, creative, and more prepared movement now more than ever. And I will speak on the behalf of the entire staff at Indivisible. We're so proud and so humbled to be in this with all of you and so ready to take the next steps together. And speaking of next steps, I'm going to pass it over to Mary Small, Indivisible's legislative director, to talk about where we go from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that roundup, Susanna. And thanks for all of you for being on this call tonight. It is such a joy and a privilege to get to be talking to you in this moment when we are working to solidify and harden Biden's victory and figure out what comes next. So I have the fantastic job of getting to talk to you tonight about Indivisible's plan for this next sort of period We're calling it Showing 2020 the Door, because I know so many of us, for so many reasons, are ready to be done with this year. But this is our plan for what in DC gets called the lame duck session. That's the time between an election and the following inauguration and the presidential transition. And when we find out what's going to happen in the Senate. So this is sort of our plan for the next couple of months. You can go to the next slide. So because we are indivisible and we never dream small, we are going to be focused on 5 different things, but related things in this period. So the first is, of course, as I know you're also focused on, taking the 2 Senate runoffs in Georgia on January 5th and all the work to lead up to that. The next, and we have to name this, is fending off any final Trump catastrophes. We have every reason to expect from his behavior since he came into the national view that there are going to be some temper tantrums, and they'll probably be cruel and destructive, and we'll need to meet them and respond to them. So know that that is on our radar. The third thing is bolstering House progressives' voting bloc power. I'm going to talk about that more in a second. The fourth is ensuring Biden makes good early personnel choices. And then the last one is winning the upcoming COVID response and federal funding fights. It's a lot, but also if you all have showed anything, it is that you have the tremendous capacity and muscle to really move a big agenda at the election, at the ballot box, and also when it comes to advocacy and how we're positioning. So with that, we'll go to the next slide and dig in a little bit. So as we look ahead to this next period, there's basically 2 big questions that are being asked, and there's a lot we can do in the intervening months to help shape the answer to those questions. So the first is, will progressives boldly wield the power that they have in the House? And then the second is, will the Biden administration fall for McConnell's deceptive ploys, for this really hollow offer of fake bipartisanship? Those are the 2 big questions. And a lot of what we're going to be doing in the next 2 months is aimed at influencing the answers to those. Go to the next slide. Okay, so one of the things on that list was building progressive power in the House. We have said for a few years now that having a progressive voting bloc in the House is one of the pillars of kind of our strategy for how we actually win the solutions that communities have been demanding for a long time, the solutions communities need. I know that we have all seen the ways that this pandemic and associated recession have really laid bare the inequities and systemic inequalities that are faced by communities across the country. And so having a mechanism, an ability to play hardball and demand the policy changes that communities need is a critical part of being able to win those solutions. Just yesterday, I am so excited to share with you, the Congressional Progressive Caucus in the House passed a series of reforms to the way that the caucus operates to better enable them to negotiate and vote as a bloc. And I know that people are asking a lot of questions about the dynamics within the Democratic caucus about how this works. This is, yes, a tool that progressives can use to help stop bad, destructive, harmful deals. But it is also a tool that progressives can use to demand improvements, amendments, ways to strengthen legislation that is going through. They're going to have a lot of chances to use it over the next couple of months. And this is going to be a critical part of how we orient away from the bipartisan compromise frame, whether that frame is being put forward by Democrats or by Republicans. As the indivisible team was trying to plan for 2021, the time ahead, we really went back and dug in deep to analyze what happened under the Obama administration, to pull out all of the lessons learned that we could from that time. And what we saw was time and time and time again, Democrats moving to the center, moving to the right, watering down their own legislation, making it smaller than was needed to meet the scale of need in communities. And Republicans dragging out negotiations, playing along, stringing Democrats along to never vote yes on the final package, to never actually offer support, but all to waste time and water down the solutions that eventually moved. We want to learn from that. We don't want to repeat a failed play. We want to move forward with a strategy that actually solidifies progressive wins, that moves forward progressive messaging so that we're better set up both, again, to win what the progressive solutions we need, and also pressure the Biden administration to deliver everything that he can through administrative action. And go to the next slide. Okay, we have a couple of upcoming fights we know in Congress. The first is COVID relief, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. After refusing relief for the American people for months, McConnell is toying with the idea, trying to squeak out a win to help push the at-risk Republican incumbents across the finish line in Georgia. And then on the federal funding fight, so as you know, the current funding bill for the government expires on December 11th. That's just around the corner. And McConnell and Trump are going to do everything in their power to sabotage the next administration and tie Biden to the misallocated spending decisions of the Trump administration, like the out-of-control budgets for defense and homeland security and more. In both of these, we are going to do everything we can to secure all the wins that are possible for our communities to get COVID relief, to get economic supports for folks during this time, and to make sure that we're not locked into bad federal funding decisions. And while we secure those wins, we're going to be highlighting Republican obstruction, and we're going to be making sure that everything that Republicans deny the American people in these next couple of months gets put on the tabs of the Republicans in Georgia. I just want to close with one more piece. Which is to say, we don't know what is going to happen with the Senate. We believe, I thank you, whoever advanced the slide. I forgot one more thing, which is the Biden administration's personnel. Voters did not elect McConnell to the presidency, so we absolutely should not let him control the executive branch, plain and simple. He's blustering a lot right now about his plans to refuse to confirm Biden's nominees or appointees to the executive branch. We really want to encourage Biden to take this from Trump's playbook, to use the Vacancies Act, the recess appointments. We have great resources on those if those are new to you. To find other ways to staff up the executive branch without giving McConnell control over all of the personnel for the executive branch, because we know that personnel is policy. And then also pressuring senators to decline to confirm corporate appointments. Part of reshaping our country towards a system that is more fair and more equal for everyone is to not install corporatists into positions of power inside of the administration. I'm running out of time, so the last thing that I want to say quickly is that we don't know who will have control of the Senate next year. We're going to do everything that we possibly can to take those 2 Senate seats, to take control of the Senate. But either way, we know that we want to lay groundwork now to fight for the progressive solutions that communities need, to take back leadership in that messaging, and to make sure that we're not falling into, again, this false promise of bipartisan compromise. It's actually just going to run out the clock and run down the list of solutions we're able to achieve. I'll stop there with time and look forward to talking more in the Q&A.
Mary, thank you so much for that. There are so many questions, so feel free to send us an email at supportteam@indivisible.org. Once again, that's supportteam@indivisible.org. The email's also on the slide. We're going to be spending the next few minutes answering some of your questions. But we have a lot of people on this call, so we might not be able to get to them all. We'll get to the ones that we've seen the most often. And then, once again, send us those emails. We definitely want to hear from you. Don't be shy. I'm dropping the email one more time on the chat box. That's supportteam@indivisible.org. So let's start off with the first question. And this is a question we've been getting a lot. I know you all want to hear what's happening in Georgia. What are we doing in Georgia? So Danny, this question's for you. What can we do to help the Senate race in Georgia right now?
Yeah, so that is number one questions on everyone's mind. Thank you so much for asking. So we are currently working to speak with our partners and organizations in state about the best way to plug in Georgia. I know everyone is eager to get started immediately because that election is right around the corner. But there are a couple of big things to keep in mind. Number one, we have all of the energy of a nationwide election now being funneled into one state. So I am so excited for the people of Georgia. I am also feel so bad for them that they're about to be bombarded with more political spending and advertising and dollars than probably probably any other state in the history of the country. These 2 Senate seats are going to decide everything. So on our end, we are currently working with our partners to make sure that we are plugging in a way that is responsible, that is filling the gaps that need to be addressed, whether that be voter registration or persuasion conversations. A big thing is going to be getting people back onto the vote by mail rolls, because a lot of folks are going to have to re-register for vote by mail. There are a lot of moving pieces to this whole effort, and so I would say that the work is going to be significant, and we are going to be following up after today and in the going forward, asking for more volunteers for phones, for texts, for all of the different pieces that we are going to need help with, but we just need a little bit of time along with the folks in state to figure out the best way to do that. And I see a good shout out there that the Georgia voter registration deadline for this runoffs is December 7th. So, we will be back with more information prior to that, but we are definitely going to be working so hard to make sure that not only are we doing everything we can to win these seats, but that we're doing it with a lot of consciousness to the folks who are already in state doing this work, and the communities that are there that are going to be experiencing so much of this attention. We don't want to just parachute in, try to extract 2 Senate seats and then disappear. We want to make sure that we're building with them to have some long-term sustainable infrastructure, support the work that's already being done by Black organizers and Latinx organizers in the state. So we will be following up with more. Keep an eye out, and definitely look at the campaigns of both Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff directly. They're going to be looking forward to a lot of additional funding and everything, and then some in-state groups as well, like Fair Fight, Black Voters Matter are going to be doing a lot of work there. Color of Change is a great partner of ours that's going to be doing work there, and we will be following up with some additional information as well. So thank you all so much. We're so excited about Georgia. I'm excited too. we need just a couple of days for some more firm plans, and we will send them out to you as soon as possible.
Thank you so much, Danny. Next question is for Mary. What does Indivisible National see as a priority for our work in terms of national legislative action?
Absolutely. So I think that we can sort of think about a couple of different streams of work. But to start off, you will not be surprised to hear that our top priority continues to be democracy, continues to be the structural democracy reforms that we need to be able to sort of fully, yes, we're so glad that Joe Biden was elected and that we stopped this descent, but to really rebuild and actually have a fully functioning system that actually works for all people who live here. There's some dramatic structural reforms that are needed. And so you are not going to stop hearing us talk about that, continue to advance and normalize and build those in the next few years. If we have a trifecta, we're going to be doing everything that we can to get them signed into law. If we don't, we're going to continue to normalize them and mainstream them. So the moment we do have a trifecta in 2022, we're ready to press go. But as you all know, there's so many other crises that are intersecting crises that are affecting our country. And so whether we're looking at economic justice or climate change or immigration or healthcare, we've built out our policy team. We're ready in this moment to move good legislation in the House, hopefully the Senate as well, and secure as many wins as we can through executive action. So we're going to be ready to go there with you across those diversified fronts. Democracy is always at the forefront of our mind, but we know that there's a lot of wins underneath that, and we're really excited to work with you in the months ahead to secure them, again, through legislation as well as executive action.
Thank you. Now we have a question for Leah and Ezra. How does Indivisible understand and stand the tension between moderate Dems blaming progressives for lost seats and progressives pointing to the need to push ahead on the needs of undeserved communities? Great question.
Great question.
It's a great question. Well, let me just start by saying, I think that we can all be realistic about the fact that we've just come off of a period where progressives who, did not get the candidate that they liked the most in the primary maybe not their first choice or their second choice, all worked really, really, really hard to come together to make sure that Joe Biden was president. And I think we should all be really proud of that. And we should recognize what a tremendous effort it was across the progressive ecosystem, that people who, everybody understood what was at stake, and everybody understood there was no taking your ball and going home during this time. And that victory, that success, that unity helped us get across the finish line. And that's honestly why it's so disappointing. I'm speaking a little louder. Oh.
See,
That's honestly why it's so disappointing.
and Zeke is disappointed too.
Moderates coming in and turning on progressive messages that were really crucial to energizing a multiracial progressive young coalition to getting to victory, and blaming those for defeats that are really, recognizing that we're all disappointed in some of the down ballot failure, or some of the down ballot losses. There's just no evidence, and there's no real argument that folks have successfully made that that's the result of progressive messaging or framing in races where you often had centrist candidates running centrist campaigns that really declined to take the fight to Trump. And, and the results were disappointing.
I also, just worth noting, so AOC made some splash, making some critiques of the party, and then Doug Jones, the Democrat in Alabama, not known as one of the most progressive states in the country, Alabama, who recently, unfortunately, lost his Senate re-election race, made many of the same points, which were nothing more. It was not an argument that you've got to embrace my policies, you've got to reject those policies. See, it's just not that. It was that we need to invest in party building. We need to invest in organizing. We need to invest in the long-term infrastructure that can actually win. And we're not doing that as much as we should. And I think that that's not actually particularly an ideological argument. That's just an argument about how do you win? And the answer is you got to invest long-term.
Yeah, I would just add to that, we should all, as a movement, as folks who are invested in Democratic Party success over the long term, we should be prepared to do a real debrief. We should be looking at where did people turn out, where did they not, where did we lose people, where did we not, and we shouldn't be trying to predecide the outcome of any of that. We should follow the evidence where it takes us. But we should also be realistic that a lot of the challenges that we face are about the structural issues that have kept the long-term infrastructure that we need weak, and funneled money into last minute pushes around TV ads, or into campaigns where the infrastructure is gone the day after the election. We know what works. We know what works long-term. It's what's working in Georgia and what's working in Arizona. It's long-term investment led by the communities that are under attack. And that is the kind of thing that we need to actually be supporting and moving forward.
And just the last thing on it, worth noting that Indivisible was not when it was founded, has not over the last 4 years, is not now, and will not in the future be an arm of the Democratic Party. Our theory is that we need to build progressive power nationwide. Red state, blue state, urban area, suburban area, exurban area, rural area. We need people building power. Sometimes that's going to be in partnership with the Democratic Party. Sometimes that's going to be pushing the Democratic Party to do better. And it's important to have that outside independent power that you've been building so that we can continue to win, and continue not just to win elections, but to win the legislation that'll save democracy in this country. So we're committed to that in the long term. That power building that we believe so much in, I hope that the Democratic Party reinvests in that. And I can guarantee you Indivisible is.
Thank you. So I'm actually gonna end it here. I have a few more things to say. Before we end tonight's call, I just want to let you all know that we are organizing a nationwide action on January 13th to make sure the new Congress and President Biden get to work on fixing our democracy. Regardless of the Georgia Senate runoff results, we're showing up and we're showing out. The first few months of the new presidential administration and of Congress are key to setting legislative priorities, and we're going to make sure that DC statehood, ending the filibuster, and stopping voter suppression are on top of the list. So look out in the next few weeks. We'll be providing y'all with more information and resources. And until then, just make sure to reach out to your Indivisible organizer. And if you don't know who that is, and if you don't have that information, make sure to reach out to their support team. And we'll love to get you connected and answer any of questions that you have. We actually have 1 more minute. So very quickly, to end the call, I'm going to end it with a question for Danny. And And we'll see you all next month on December 3rd for our December 3rd National Activist Call. Danny, take it away. This is the last question for you. Today's news has me concerned. Trump will never concede, and it appears that the Republican Party will back him up, probably all the way. What can we do to ensure that the election's respected and if they never concede?
Well, thank you for that final question. It is a terrifying question, but it is a really important one. The most important thing to remember is that it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does, whether or not he concedes or whether or not he spends the rest of his life boo-hooing that he had an election stolen from him because he's a giant child. The fact of the matter is that he lost this election, and come January 20th, he is not going to be president anymore. From this point forward, we have a couple of priorities. Number one is making sure that the counts are finished and are certified. They are going to throw up a ton of lawsuits to try to undermine them. But like I said, our wins are very big. The likelihood that any of these are going to be successful is very low. If they are, they have to do it in more than one state. So there are some big hurdles for them, and things have been going our way. The next thing is making sure that the certifications go right, and then finally the Electoral College vote goes forward. So far, all indications are that things are proceeding as they are supposed to be proceeding, despite the fact that the Trump administration itself is being pretty I'll be kind and say childish about the circumstances. But ultimately, reality will set in as these legal objections are struck down. Again, the point is that Donald Trump doesn't have to concede. He can do this all he wants. He can use it as a setup for a run in 2024 or for his media company, or maybe he will just retire to Mar-a-Lago. It doesn't really matter, because what matters is we have the votes, we have the will of the people, and we have a historically large win in the states that we needed to win in order to secure that inauguration for Joe Biden on January 20th. We are going to stay vigilant, we are going to stay active, and we are going to keep folks up to date on things that are actionable. But right now, we've won, y'all, and we should continue forward with that strength.
Thank you all so much. I just want to say, I know it's been 2 minutes past the call at the end of the call, but we don't win what we don't organize, and we won a lot because we organized a lot, and that's all thanks to you. Regardless of what Trump is whining about and crying about, he cannot take the power that we have, and we use that power to vote him out. So he'll be voted out. He'll stay voted out. Thank you all so much for joining us. Remember, our next call is December 3rd. Please, let's not do November 2020 ever again. December 3rd. Join us. We'll be talking more about our national action on January. Once again, that's January 13th. We're taking action. We're letting Congress know that we mean business and we want those progressive policies passed. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact your organizer or email us at supportteam@indivisible.org. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for the work that you've done. It's all up to you. Thank you.